Across the island of Sodor, there is a need for all sorts of goods. From food and cattle to timber and coal, the island cannot operate without goods trains running both night and day. Goods trains carry cargo that is either coming to the island or is being taken to the harbour to be loaded into ships for export to other areas of the world. Many different types of trucks make up goods trains. There are wooden plank wagons which can hold coal, stone, scrap and many other things. Box vans can hold larger goods items and can even be refrigerated. Ulster wagons carry long, awkward items such as logs, beams and heavy boxes. Trucks can be prone to mischief, but at their core they understand that they are an asset to the railway. Many of the trucks like to talk to engines outside of work. Indeed, all trucks were very friendly once an engine got to know them. However, there was once a truck who was not very friendly at all. In fact, he was a very, very awful truck. It had been said that something went wrong when his builder constructed him. A rivet out of line, or a wood piece was rotten. No one quite knows. What was certain is that he placed many engines in a great deal of danger. But one day, he went too far. The morning was brisk when it happened. A thick fog had descended on the island, and Percy the Green Engine had arrived at the quarry to arrange his trucks for the first trip down the branch line. He was very tired that morning, and wasn't attending to what he was doing. The evil truck, due to his dangerous nature, had been placed on a remote siding to prevent engines from using him. But Percy's grogginess and the thick fog caused him to misjudge which siding he took trucks from. Without knowing, he had placed the evil truck at the head of his train. The foreman didn't recognize the mistake either, and loaded the wagons without objection. The time came for Percy to leave, and he pulled out of the quarry none the wiser that disaster lay ahead. The evil truck, in his narrow mind, began hatching an awful scheme.
If I and the trucks all back at just the right time, we can pull little Percy off the rails.
The branch line ran around sharp curves on a steep hill. If an engine was to fall off the rails, he might slide down on the hill and crash into one of the many neighbouring cottages. Sir Topham had placed fences along the track to prevent this, but the evil truck had other plans. After Percy had cleared the waterfall, he started down the first bend. The evil truck screeched on his brakes, signalling to the other trucks to hold back. The sudden force pulled down on Percy's rear coupler, picking his front wheels off the rails. "Oh, oh, oh!" Percy cried. Then the truck surged ahead, and with a crack of the coupling, Percy came off the rails onto the crest of the hill. His wheels, still moving, began to grip onto the sod, and he jerked forwards down the hill. The fog was so thick he couldn't see where he was going, but the evil truck knew.
"Goodbye, Percy,"
he croaked. Percy tumbled and tumbled until he saw the outline of a cottage ahead. "Oh, Horace!" yelled Percy. Sensing the impending crash, Percy's driver and fireman jumped from the footplate. Meanwhile, the evil truck had forced the train's brakes so he could stop and listen. A few seconds later, Percy careened into the house, top of a hill. The truck heard the sounds of wood splintering and muffled cries of those inside. He began to cackle madly.
"Stupid engineers, look where he's going next time."
The evil truck gorfed. The other trucks were horrified. "What have you done? You've lied to us!" they screamed. "You're psychotic! We were only going to scare Percy," one truck said.
"Yes, you're insane,"
the other truck added.
"We didn't expect this to happen."
But the evil truck didn't care. His laughter echoed over the hills and below to where Percy laid, battered and bruised, regretting ever placing the evil truck on his train that morning. The tragic accident left a deep scar indeed. Percy was mended, but the lives of those in the cottage were lost. In disgrace, Sir Topham Hatt scrapped the evil truck immediately. From then on, he was very careful about the character of the trucks he brought to the island to prevent such an awful affair from ever happening again. It was autumn on the island of Sodor, and the thin controller had sent Peter, Sam and Rusty to clear the line of leaves and broken branches. One afternoon, while clearing the line, Peter Sam was low on water, so Rusty offered to shunt into the water tower. Once there, the little diesel tooted goodbye. Peter Sam dozed as he felt the water cascade into his tank. However, the trucks grew bored.
How much longer are we going to stay here?
Groaned the leading truck.
Let's break away,
said the other. Their loads were heavy, and their couplings were old. The coupling of the leading truck snapped, and they broke free from Peter Sam.
On!
Screamed the trucks, but they didn't notice a sign up ahead warning about the steep bend and ravine. They just ran past it, laughing obnoxiously. Then it happened. The trucks hit a bad joint in the rails, and they plunged off the old iron bridge. "Oh no!" wailed Peter Sam. His driver drove them back to the scene of the accident. "This were our fault," said the driver. "We didn't secure the trucks proper like." "The thing controller will be furious," worried Peter Sam. And he was. "You'll be confined to shunting in the yard until you and your crew learn the importance of securing your loads properly." Duncan, who had just rolled in, heard everything. "Those trucks will come back and haunt you in your special funnel," he said rudely. "You'll be whistling a different tune if you saw a ghost," said Scarlowy. "Bah! Ghosts," scoffed Duncan. "Things that go bump in the night. Rubbish." "Well," Scarlowy said ominously, "I've been on this branch much longer than you, and I know all the spooks and legends on this line. One story in particular stands out. Many years ago, an engine was returning home from a hard day's work at the quarry. He was looking forward to a rest in the shed, but when he crossed the old iron bridge, the engine lost control and he plunged into the swamps below. He was never found, but there have been many reports on foggy nights of an engine trying to cross the bridge, but never reaching the other side." "Bah! Nonsense!" gruffed Duncan, and he puffed away. Peter Sam sighed. "Pay no mind to him, Peter Sam," comforted Scarlowy. "He wouldn't be so cocky if he saw an actual ghost." This gave Peter Sam an idea. He spoke to his driver and fireman, and Duncan's crew agreed. "I'd say a good scare would bring him down to size," his driver said. "We'll do it tonight." The thin controller had sent Duncan to shunt at the slate mine, and that evening he was to bring loaded trucks back to the yard. Duncan's driver thought as part of the plan to take the route across the old iron bridge. "Ah," scoffed Duncan as he crossed the bridge, "that shit's more haunted than this bridge." But nonetheless, Scarlowy's story stayed firm on his mind. It was getting dark, and Duncan was keen to leave. "If we don't go now, I'll lose my favourite place in the shed." "I'm sorry," said the driver, "but we can't leave till we've collected all the trucks." The crew grinned as they could see their plan was working. It was dark when they set off. A heavy mist began to settle as they approached the bridge. Duncan wasn't sure, but he thought he could hear an engine's whistle in the distance. It's probably nothing. Duncan's driver brought the train to a stop when they reached the centre of the bridge. "What? Why are we stopped?" Duncan quivered. Looking ahead, coming towards him through the thick and heavy fog, was what looked like an engine's lamp. It can it be?" shivered Duncan, as a silhouette of what looked like an engine emerged. Then his driver threw a slab of slate into the ravine below. "It's the ghost!" cried Duncan. Take me back, please!" Next morning, the engines were being ready for work as Duncan bustled in. "Where have you been?" asked Rusty. There's a lot more work to be done at the quarry than we thought," Duncan stammered. "We thought it would be best if I spent the night there." "I can't stop. I got a train to get out." And Duncan shot quickly away. What's wrong with Duncan? I don't know, said Rusty. But anyone would think he's just seen a ghost. The island of Sodor has many beautiful places. There are fields of green, white sandy beaches and cozy villages. All the engines love passing through the picturesque landscape. There is one place, however, that the engines all avoid. The smelters. The air seemed to grow cold as the sounds of snorting machines whirred all around. Worst of all, the line side was littered with rows of rusted cars, trucks, and engines. The smelters were run by two menacing diesels, Ari and Bert. They take great pleasure in their work and never miss a chance to taunt the engines.
Don't get too close to Cutter's torch, they would sneer. They might just cut you up on sight.
The engines knew Sir Topham Hatt would never scrap them, but all the same, Ari and Bert's teasing chilled them to the boiler. One cold night, the diesels were idling outside of the smelter's shed. They had just finished their work and were ready to retire to their shed. A low mist hung over the yard, and the echoes of the smelter's machines danced in the air.
Another good day's work behind us, eh?
Rumbled Ari.
Couldn't be better,
Oozed Bert. Their conversation was interrupted by an unfamiliar horn. Through the mist, a long, slender diesel slunk into the yard. A line of trucks groaned behind him.
Hello,
greeted Ari.
What can we do for you?
Evening. Special delivery for you. He motioned to the flatbed behind him. Ari and Bert could make out a shape of an old, rusted steam engine.
Well, 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 smirked Ari. This is my kind of surprise.
They were clearing out an old mine on the mainland, replied the diesel, and they found this wreck, tangled in the weeds. Must have been forgotten about when the mine closed. Scrap yards on the other railway are at capacity, he finished, so I was told to bring it on my goods delivery tonight.
Well, thank you very much, chuckled Ari. I'll show you to the fuel pump. Bert, move that old rust bucket to the shed.
Bert didn't like being bossed around, but he complied as Ari and the diesel rolled away. He grumbled as he dragged the heavy flatbed into the glow of the smelter's shed.
Stupid Ari, he growled. He could have brought this rubbish in here.
As he rolled along, the steam engine creaked and groaned. It almost sounded like laughter. Bert pulled into place, then rolled alongside.
Who's got the last laugh now?
He sneered.
Useless old kettle. Is that what you think of me?
Bert ground to a halt. For the first time he saw the front of the old engine. Its face was smudged and dirty, and its eyes were weary.
I'm far from useless,
wheezed the engine.
Pah, snorted Bert. Another steam in denial. Diesel's our way forward. There's no need for you now. And what happens when you become outdated? Bert scoffed. Never gonna happen. I used to be just like you, sighed the engine. I was delivered to the old mine, with everyone telling me how powerful I was. They had an ancient engine before me, on its last wheels when I came. I laughed when I arrived. Not in your prime anymore, eh, old-timer? You wouldn't have work if it hadn't been for me, he coughed. This mine was built on my steam. And now you have no more to give. Stand aside and let new engines take charge.
The engine sighed.
Now look at me. I was invincible until diesels came. I got a taste of my own medicine then. You are modern, but for how long? What will happen to you when a more efficient engine is built?
That will never happen, Bert spluttered.
Deny it all you want, but I stand before you as proof of it. Time will go on, and you will be replaced.
Bert was silent. The words sent chills through his frames.
Perhaps you should show more kindness towards engines and their end. We've done our fair share of work. We just want to go in peace, without your mockery and sneering. Now, go. I like to revel in what peace I'm deserving of.
Bert said nothing. He was deeply affected by the engine's words, but didn't want to show it. He continued to sneer as he rolled out the smelter's shed. Harry was waiting for him. The big diesel had gone with its goods train, and the fog was beginning to lift.
Where have you been? Harry growled. And who are you talking to in there? Stupid old steamer, barked Bert. Try and tell me we'll be out of date one day.
Harry stared blankly.
How did you talk with it?
Bert looked back. As the doors of the smelter shed began to close, he saw no face on the engine, only a rusted smokebox door. Bert was in disbelief. The shed door shut with an unsettling thud.
Oh, that exhaust has got to you, Harry cackled.
Oh, shut up, snapped Bert. It rolled off to their shed without another word. Bert is a different engine now. While still menacing, he no longer taunts the steam engines with threats of scrap. He is silent whenever he goes into the smelter's shed, for he thinks of the spectral old engine. I think its words will follow Bert for a long time. Don't you?
Edward the Blue Engine has worked on the island of Sodor for many years, and has forgotten more than most other engines will ever know. Edward always has wisdom to share, but the other engines are not always eager to hear it. One night, Gordon was fuming. He was due to take an overnight goods train to a faraway station near the end of the line. He was arguing with Edward over the correct way to get there.
My way is the fastest,
Gordon bellowed. My way is the safest, Edward scowled. You don't go out that way very often, Gordon. If you aren't careful, you might have an accident.
I've travelled up and down the main line hundreds of times, little Edward. I know the way. Stick to your branch line and let me handle myself, thank you.
Edward didn't say another word. He knew that Gordon could be awfully stubborn. He only hoped that Gordon would see sense. Soon, Gordon was on his way up the line. He was still cross at Edward for contradicting him.
Know it all, see? He thinks just because he's got a few years on me that he can boss me around. I'll go my way and show him it's fast and safe. Then he'll be sorry.
Gordon charged ahead into the night, not knowing what lay ahead.
Oh, glory, what is that?
Gordon bellowed. Frightened, he screeched on his brakes, but it was too late. Edward was resting at the station when his driver woke him.
There's been trouble up the line, Edward. Gordon never made it to the station.
I told him, Edward said. I bet he went his way and had an accident. Come on, old boy, let's see if we can find him. Edward was preparing to leave when he heard the trucks in the sidings wailing like ghosts. What are you up to? Edward asked. Gordon was taken away by the Phantom. Don't be so daft, chortled Edward. There are no phantoms here. Oh, but there are, affirmed the trucks. Engines ought never to go to that whole part of the line. That's where the engine snatcher lives. Edward rolled his eyes.
They say if an engine gets too close, he'll be pulled off the rail and dragged into a fiery pit below.
Yes, yes, said another truck, his eyes wide. It can see the engines through the light of the red signal. While you wait, it reaches out and grabs you. Ridiculous, Edward said indignantly.
Beware of the Phantom, Edward.
By the time Edward had got to the old part of the line, the moon had risen high overhead. The line was not well lit, and it was hard to see. In the distance, Edward saw a red tail lamp. It was Gordon's trucks, scattered along the line. But where was Gordon? Edward ran alongside and looked in the spot where Gordon should have been. It didn't make sense. High above them was an old red signal, standing menacingly like a sentinel on guard. Edward was reminded of what the trucks had said, and suddenly found himself thinking of nothing but the Phantom. Then, suddenly, a wailing noise came from deep down an embankment. Edward, his driver, and his fireman all jumped. Petrified with fear, Edward didn't say a word or move an inch. The wailing came again, but Edward realised that it sounded familiar. "That's no phantom," Edward said sharply. "That's Gordon." Edward's driver shone a light, and sure enough, there was Gordon in disgrace down the embankment. Gordon's crew sat nearby, clearly still shaken from the accident. "How on earth did you get down there, Gordon?" Edward laughed, but his driver pointed Edward towards the answer. Ahead was an old set of points that had sunken into the embankment. The points were rusted and couldn't be switched back. The signalman had set the signal to red so that engines wouldn't accidentally run off the rails into the embankment below. Gordon evidently had ignored the signal. The next morning, Sir Topham Hatt spoke severely to Gordon.
"Signals are designed to keep you safe,"
he said.
"I shudder to think what might have happened if you had been pulling coaches instead of trucks."
Gordon looked down.
"Furthermore, what Edward doesn't know about railways isn't worth knowing. When he tries to help you in future, I hope you will value his experience."
"Yes, sir." Sir Topham Hatt closed the old section of line that Gordon had gone down until it could be repaired. The trucks still talk about the Phantom and claim that it not only wails in the night, but it is also big, blue, and named Gordon.